a platform to promote good governance, separation of powers, accountability, areas where we have a deficit as a country. So our enthusiasm is not that people have come to eat Ugandan food, like many people have been saying on TV and radio. Our enthusiasm about this meeting is that this is a meeting to promote good governance, accountability, and separation of power. The FDC hopes that such as separation of powers and CPA benchmarks for democratic legislatures, as they are advertised by the Secretariat in London, we will be given more time than the other topics listed. In fact, this is an area where the FDC should have been invited to serve the delegates coming to Uganda with the local content, because I think we are the best. We're the best that have fed on the Ugandan democracy, so if we've been extended an invitation, guests will benefit more. We have nonetheless prepared a document and a documentary which we have already distributed to some of the delegates that we were able to access. They may not tell them everything about Uganda during the conference, but we made an effort to distribute to them a document and a documentary about Uganda and the areas of their discussion, areas of separation of powers, areas of good governance, climate change, and others. So we made an effort over the weekend to interact with those who are arriving, and I want to keep those meetings confidential, but we'll be able to serve them the local content. If they want to know democracy in Uganda, offered them a dose. I once again, on behalf of the FDC, welcome CPA delegates to our great nation in the spirit of one Uganda, one people. The second point, the by-elections taking place in Hoima and Kabong. As you are aware, our candidate in Kabong went missing, but we have others who are campaigning for councillors. So the FDC Secretary General was already there, campaigning for the FDC platform and for the councillors. The lady who should have been part of this caravan has actually withdrawn. Maybe to confirm that actually it is not resources that made her run out of this campaign. But as I said, and I don't want to repeat myself, she had been influenced by Mr. Museveni. I don't know whether Museveni now will pay the Electoral Commission under pressure, having failed to withdraw the candidate. I don't know. The by-election in Hoima is going on. These elections are taking place, as you are aware, on Thursday. The NRM certainly will lose Hoima District 1 MPC. The only trouble is that they are now using security, especially the military and the Electoral Commission, to interfere with that process in Hoima. We were shocked, and I mean the FDC, to receive reports that the Electoral Commission was barely 3 days to the elections, changing locations of polling stations, saying this particular polling station that has been here now, it will be moved to another location. And they have not involved the local leaders and the FDC who are participants in this election. Our field staff in Hoima brought this information over the weekend. Today we intend to lodge a complaint to the Electoral Commission, the Honorable and Agenda, who on behalf of the FDC is spearheading those campaigns and polling in the area. We will lead a team of the FDC to the Electoral Commission to lodge this complaint and other complaints, including what I am going to share with you. The heavy deployment of the military especially, because electoral laws assign the police the responsibility of policing the elections. But repeatedly, Mr. Museveni wants to deploy the military, especially where he senses defeat. So already in all sub-counties, in Hoima and the villages, there are columns of UPDF soldiers patrolling. Even, you can patrol streets, but they are patrolling even footpath in the villages. I think the idea is to intimidate people of Hoima, either for them not to show up or to vote for the NRM candidate who is losing this election. We intend, if not for any reason, at least for formality, to lodge a complaint against this heavy deployment, which against all the electoral laws. With the Electoral Commission, I spoke to Honorable Museveni in the morning. Either he has already reached the offices of the Electoral Commission or is on his way there. The final rally for the FDC is supposed to take place in the municipality tomorrow. But the Electoral Commission was being pressured by Mr. Museveni to push us outside the municipality. I think Museveni intends to go there, and he doesn't want to see anyone who doesn't support him. But as I said, the Honorable Museveni and the candidate and our staff were in Hoima should be meeting the Electoral Commission, because shifting our rally, first of all, will break the law, but it's also something that we will not agree to. So Mr. Museveni and the Electoral Commission should prepare themselves that should they insist on shifting the FDC rally from the municipality, they should wait and prepare for a showdown. We have also received information that starting today, the military and police wants to begin arresting people, arresting the FDC and all the opposition agents who are in Hoima. Of course, some were arrested during the campaign and released. We also had a problem of all radio stations being told not to host the FDC candidate and all the opposition. Eventually, only 2 radio stations accepted, the others are refused. So this is the campaign that we've run this far. But we still, despite the problems we've gone through, we still think we'll be able to win this particular election. The last point that I want to address you on is the ongoing saga of Kayihura. You've seen, or you saw, or you read Museveni's response, which he wrote over the weekend. Of course, as expected, Museveni defended Kayihura. I don't know whether once or he's still one of his blue boys. He defended him against accusations of human rights abuses and violations, corruption and sale of illicit drug. Charges that the Americans leveled against Kayihura and for which he was sanctioned. But reading Museveni's response, it appears it's understandable because of his age. Either he didn't read the content of that particular document, or he had difficulties understanding what the Americans were saying. The Americans have not issued a warrant of arrest that they want Kayihura to be tried in an American court. And Museveni said, no, Kayihura will be tried here. Maybe he was told he didn't read. And I can understand, at 75 you begin getting tired. Maybe someone just told him. So his response is about something that the Americans have not raised. They have only said, Kayihura and your wife and children, you will no longer be allowed to come to the US. 2, that all your property here in the US, they didn't tell us if the properties are there or not, will be confiscated. And now Museveni says, no, we are going to try Kayihura here. He's already in the court. We will not try him. I am not going to hand over any Ugandan to the international court. Unfortunately, sometimes even if you don't hand over, you can be handed over. So Museveni thinks that you only appear before the international court when you have been handed over. You can be handed over. You don't have to hand yourself in. Maybe he doesn't know what happened to Teira and Bagubo. Teira was a president. He went hiding in Nigeria. but he was handed over. That's also what happened to Bogobo very, very costly. So the only solution Museveni has is to stop human rights violations and abuse of power. When you are still in power, you may back at foreign powers and tell them we will not hand over anyone, but there can be time when you are handed over. So that's what Museveni must understand. That yes, you may not hand over Kayihura, you may not hand over yourself, but there will be time when you will have to be handed over if the Almighty doesn't call you early. And I can understand anyone, if you follow that case of bribery involving Museveni and Kutesi. So both of them were suspects. So that's why he's defending his fellow suspect that we will not come to the US. He said there is nothing important. Just go and count the number of times Museveni has been in the US, which he now says is not important. Count the number of times. I think Museveni has been in the US more than 50 times in the last 35 years of his administration, and taking pictures with every leader and send them back to Uganda to see that he's being photographed with Obama, so he takes pleasure in dining and getting photographed with the American president. Now he says they are not important, the international community is not important, Uganda is the most beautiful country. Yes, it is beautiful if you don't ravage it. So if you ravage a beautiful country, certainly that country will cease being beautiful, and that's what Museveni has done. It's the reason he goes. The other day I was in a hospital in New Delhi called Medanta. That's where Museveni accompanied his wife for treatment, Medanta in New Delhi. Maybe he didn't know that Uganda is a beautiful country at that stage. So if you ravage a beautiful country, it means you will have to go and seek facilities and elsewhere. But most important, as FDC, we think Ugandans should be able to solve and deal with their own problems. But where we have a deficit, we will certainly bank on the world. You've seen where we have a budget deficit. Museveni has been with a ball in his hand, going to every country, including countries that are ruled by children, like the one of Qatar. The meal there is 33 years. Museveni came to power before he was born. He was there with his wife and Kutesi, same family. They had gone to beg. He goes to beg in China, he goes to beg in India, in the US, in Europe. Where we have a deficit as a country, we certainly bank on the international community. We have a deficit in the financing our budget. We also have a deficit in enforcing human rights and democracy in Uganda. So the same way Museveni goes to beg for money, any Ugandan is free to go and beg for any additional support and effort towards the democratization of the country. So instead of Museveni blaming the opposition that we are jubilating for nothing, we certainly don't want Museveni to be tried in the US. If he has committed crimes here, I want him tried in Uganda, the same way Bashir is being tried in Khartoum, and the same way Hosni Mubarak. We're only cautioning him, he needs to reconcile with the population. Ugandans are very forgiving. Then you can afford him a decent rest at his home, whichever he chooses to go to after ravaging the country. So those are the issues. If there is a question, one or two, I will now entertain them.
You talked about a document that you've already managed to give to some delegates,
yes.
Commonwealth delegates. Just Nico, give it. But how big is this document? And is it a film documentary?
We've handed over two pieces. One is a document, another is a documentary. We did a documentary here. I don't know if there are copies still available here, but you can access it in the due course. So those documents is what, but we've been writing to these people, but not particularly these MPs coming to Uganda. So these are the documents we've shared with those that we're able to access. Not all of them we're able to access.
Have you highlighted the key issues that your
I have said
politicians
the deficit. The same way we go to beg, we prepare documents to go and beg for money. Those of us who are demanding for additional effort, we've listed the deficit we have in our democracy, rule of law and separation of power, which are some of the topics that will be discussed in the meeting.
How do you want them to help?
No, I really don't want to go into that document because those who received it in, so we want to maintain the confidentiality of the document and the content. But you know, you live in Uganda, you don't know the deficit of Ugandan democracy. So those are the issues we've raised in that particular document and documented.
They still have some more.
On the same subject?
No,
Yes.
not on the same. About Kabong, you said your candidate
For the woman MP, the other candidates are available.
has pulled out.
No, she didn't pull out. She wanted to pull out.
You said
She's not attending campaigns, but the Honorable Nandala, Secretary General of the FDC, is in the area campaigning.
Would you please elaborate? Campaigning for who? Are you still
The
sure that
FDC is an institution. So we are campaigning for the FDC platform. I've told you we have councillors, but we have also a hostile woman MP candidate. So if you have a hostile child, you throw that child away. So the FDC platform is in Kabong campaigning because you see these general elections and by-elections are not only just about a candidate winning a parliamentary seat. You have the following which you have to go and speak to. And knowing what goes on in Uganda, this is an opportunity we cannot throw away. Because if we went on an ordinary day, maybe it will be tear gas and bomb. So even with the absence of the candidate, we are campaigning for her and campaigning for the rest of the FDC candidates.
looking at the current law, the other day Electoral Commission
I hope
said,
that's the last question.
the other day the Electoral Commission talked about, they said they are going to maintain her on the ballot paper.
Yes.
And they have not heard from you.
Yeah. They've not heard from who?
They have not heard from FDC.
They need to hear from the law, not from the FDC.
Are you contented with that law? Do you think it needs
The law is good. So the moment you go through nominations as a party candidate, you should only have the discipline to finish the race. Now just imagine, the other day we had a team that went to Europe. I don't remember which particular team it was. They all disappeared before the match seeking asylum. Now just imagine that situation. So I think the moment you go and ask a party to sponsor you, you should respect that party. That's why in the Constitution, even when you want to change political affiliation, the Constitution says you do that in the final year if you are an elected leader. So if you want to be independent, please go independent. You don't come to Najana Nkumbi, we give you nomination fee, we write you a letter, we mobilize for you, and then after nomination you go to see Museveni and say, I am walking away. If you don't do that, there are hundreds. In the last elections, maybe you don't know. There are people who came here for nomination fee. We hired for them, we gave them money for public address system. They didn't reach their destination. They disappeared in Kampala. We only learned later that some of the candidates didn't nominate. So people must not make politics an enterprise that you go to FDC, they give you money and disappear. Or use the platform they have given you to go and make a deal with Museveni. So it's a good law. If you want to be independent, be independent. If you don't want to stand an election, please don't. If you get sponsored from an institution, respect that institution. That is our view as a party. Yes.
Thank you so much, Honorable. What is the future of the opposition in Uganda? Because this is not the first time we are getting such cases.
This had nothing to do with the opposition.
Honorable, wait.
Yes.
You had a candidate in Jeru municipality.
Yes.
It was a by-election. But one of the challenges that candidate faced is that he didn't have enough funds. Actually, he stretched over to accomplish the campaigns. Most of the opposition candidates, even in DP, after the nomination, the party is going to support them. What is the
See, that's a
future of the
mistake you
opposition?
make. Odomoto went to campaign and he became an MP, but he was moving on the border. You mean we must go and splash money like NRM candidates? Those are the elections we want the opposition to be doing. He was on a border. One time he went to address Harare, his first activity was to slash the venue. People came, didn't know that there was a candidate. Just by that act, many people were excited. And that's how he became an MP, go and speak to him. So I don't think someone who wants money will come to seek an FDC card. That money is not here. We only meet the legal obligation, nomination and printing of posters. The rest, if you're a candidate who can't walk to a rally, you are in business. And what will the rest of Ugandans who don't have money do now? If they hear that campaign is now about money. So if you have money to run a campaign to meet all sorts of costs, you can. But if you have the minimum that the party can afford you, that's what we can afford. So I don't want to blame any party that they didn't give their candidate a Mercedes-Benz, a Land Cruiser. That we cannot afford.
As a party, do you have any disciplinary action you're going to undertake?
I said that last time that the party will discuss this in the broader view of candidates negotiating with Museveni. I told you, even those who have gone through an election do so. We needed to see Beatrice Anyoatawa Kitugumurari. She came running, yet she knew she was independent, pushing everybody and shoving people. Immediately she gets into parliament, she goes to cut a deal and said, if this is the worst group, then why did you come and attend our campaign rally in Kitugu? So you have people who can cross, you have people who will make politics an enterprise, you deal with all of them. So it's a subject matter that we discuss here regularly. Yes. It's a problem. So that's why I said you are going to raise the matter with the electoral commission. Because you wake up thinking polling station A is at Najanankumbi, and then they tell you now it is in Busega. I don't know where they have mapped out polling stations where they think they will lose. And that's why I say the team headed by Honorable Kajina is going to meet the electoral commission. Because you can't 2 days to election change the location of polling stations. But they may have mapped the constituency areas they think will lose. The same thing that happened in Kampala here and Wakiso. You can imagine, even in Kibuli, where you can call someone from electoral commission and he hears you. The electoral materials came at midday. So they didn't have transport, yet they had reached Karamoji. So these tactics of Museveni are things that we know have happened and they are bound to happen again. Njagala kukola omukisa guno okusooka nga FDC twagala kwaniriza